Let's kick off this Bears Now mailbag with Chi-Town Diehard saying, could the Bears still sign Za'Darius Smith? I like Za'Darius Smith. Always have. Has good power. I still think he's got pretty good bend coming off the edge as well. Had 9.5 sacks last year. If you combine 9 sacks, if you combine his time with Cleveland and Detroit. Last 3 years, 9 sacks, 5.5, 10. If you get somewhere in the middle there, 6 to 8 out of a guy like him, come and be that number 2, number 3 edge, depending on how a Dangbo's role is. I think it's pretty clear they're going to move him around. He'll play some edge. He'll play some 3-tech. He can move around, which you like that versatility. Smith would come in on obvious pass rushing downs. I would like it. I don't know what the price tag is. I don't think the Bears want to give like $10 million out to a player like him. But, if it got down to $4, $5, $6 million bucks, would you consider bringing him in? I certainly would if I was Chicago. I think he can still play. And what did Ryan Poles say last week? Like, you're always looking to add pass rushers. Like, you can't have enough there. And, I think the Bears have made some progress with their additions here, but clearly could still use some more. What do you guys think? Should the Bears sign Za'Darius Smith? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I'd like to see it happen. Let us know about your thoughts. Okay, DC Viper with the recent receiver addition, possibly more coming. Is this the end of the road for Tyler Scott? I don't see how he doesn't get cut. So full disclosure, filming this on Monday. Obviously, they've added to Olamide Zaccheaus. Rondale Moore and Mecole Hardman visited. Let's say they sign one, and by the time some of you are watching this, we may have that news already. I think there's a good chance they add one of these guys. Does that mean the end for Tyler Scott? Let's flash the wide receiver depth chart real quick, because there's still some depth openings. You could add one of these guys, and both this player and Tyler Scott could make the team. I think it's more of, okay, what are the roles? Is Tyler Scott beating out a Rondale Moore or Mecole Hardman? Are any of those 2 or 3 players pushing Olamide Zaccheaus? I think the Bears will add a bigger body guy probably in the draft, because I don't think John Jackson or Samori Toure are like rosterable players. I think they're practice squad guys, especially Jackson. So I think they just need more depth pieces there. But I'll say this, it gets tougher. Like, Scott's going to have to earn his keep here. I think that's very clear. He's coming off a year where the prior staff clearly he fell out of favor with for whatever reason. Fresh start in a sense with Ben Johnson, but I think also Ben Johnson and the staff aren't exactly viewing him as like a guy they want to bank on. Like, they want to bring in more talent and more competition. So I think for Tyler Scott, you got to have a simple approach this offseason. You got to work harder than you ever have. You got to view this as you're like an undrafted rookie. Like, you got to fight your ass off to make this roster. I think that's just the reality of the situation. Alex Marquez, do you think the Raiders take Jeanty at 6? I think there's a chance. Our Raiders report host, Mitchell Renz, he actually does not think they'll take him based on things he's heard. He thinks Teteroa McMillan or Armand Mimbu are more likely. Now, Pete Carroll at his core, what does he want to do? He wants to run the football. They don't have a true RB1. Jeanty solves that problem for them instantly. But if they want to beef up the trenches at right tackle with Mimbu, they could do that. They want to get Geno Smith, a guy who has wide receiver 1 potential, and McMillan to pair with Brock Bowers, they could do that as well. So, look, the best way I can put this, I think it's 50-50 whether or not Jeanty gets to 10. I think the Raiders could take him. A team could trade up. A surprise team could take him. Sitting between 5 and 9, he could fall to the Bears. I think there's a decent chance it happens. I think there's a decent chance it doesn't happen. So I'm sure we'll get more intel between now and April, but that's where I think things sit at this point in time. Subscribe to Bears Now, because we have videos all year long, whether we're in season, whether it's the off season, whether it's the dog days of the off season. We're bringing you guys content every single day, so do not miss out here on the channel. Lacora, what are the candidates to restructure contracts in 2026? I could say Jonah, Tremaine, and DJ. Well, they already gave Jonah Jackson a 1-year extension through 2027, so I don't think they're touching that contract right now. I would not restructure Tremaine. And DJ, Jalen, Montez, those are the 3 I would look at if you're looking to free up some more cap space. I don't want to restructure Tremaine because I want to have the flexibility to cut him next year if he doesn't have a great year. If you restructure him this year, that basically ensures he's on the team next year. He needs to earn that for me. Like, to me, Tremaine Edmonds is in a group of players who's safe for this year with this new coaching staff, but if he doesn't have a great year, could be on the chopping block in 2026. John Elia, I think I prefer Hardman over Moore because he's used to trick plays in Kansas City. He can be a kick return, punt returner for us. He's been healthier. I don't care about the trick play thing that much. I mean, new playbook, new scheme. I don't think that matters that much. I think it's more of, do you want to go with like a higher ceiling guy with Moore? Also, how much of a factor is money? Does one of these guys get like $4 million from a different team, whereas you could get the other guy for the vet minimum? Those things always play a role. I do agree in the sense that Hardman is probably the more reliable route given his health. He's done more of the return stuff. So if you want to kind of knock out two stones with one signing, a guy who can be your returner and give you some speed and gadget plays on offense, Hardman probably checks that box a little more. Rondale Moore, I still think, has a slightly higher ceiling as a pure receiver. Both have speed, but Moore's medical concerns are very valid. Okay, we got a Bears Nike t-shirt on sale. Limited time only, 45% off. Chatsports.com/BearsT. Go check it out. Link is in the comments and the description. Sal Vinco. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. Feel free to DM me so I can get that right at HGramNFL. A lot of chatter around defensive end in the top half of the draft, but if we miss out on a top defensive end, what are your thoughts on Sai'vion Jones, defensive end at LSU, 6'5", 280, Dennis Allen type of D end? Full disclosure, I have not watched him. I'm familiar with him, but I have not sat down and given him like deep thought or anything like that. I'll have to look into him more. But just off the rip, those measurables are like, that's like a Dennis Allen. How do I keep this PG? I was going to say, I'll just say, it's like a Dennis Allen wet dream. Oh, 6'5", 280, sign me up. If he's got pass rush ability at that size, good athletic traits, yeah, like I think he'd fit the bill for that. As far as where he'd go in the draft, again, I'd have to do more research. Phil Dorsett, do you think the Bears are done making big moves, or should we expect more signings? Well, define big. Like, is Rondale Moore and Mecole Hardman a big move? If you say yes, then yeah, I think you should expect more. If you think no, then I would say their big moves are probably done. For what I would consider a big move, which to me is like, I don't know, anything over $10 million, I think that's done. I think they're done with those signings. I think you're going to be looking for value, depth signings. Could you add a third linebacker? Could you add a rotation pass rusher? One of these receivers, another tight end, a swing tackle. I think stuff like that is what you're looking at, bargain bin signings at this point. But that doesn't mean they can't have impacts. Like these signings matter. Depth is huge. In the NFL, guys get hurt. You got to have guys at the replacement level that are serviceable, and I think that's where the Bears are shifting their attention to right now. Who is your favorite new Bears player? Guy who wasn't on the team last year. I think personality-wise, it's Grady Jarrett from the guys we've heard so far. But from a who is going to help the most important player in your franchise right now, which is Caleb Williams, it's got to be Joe Thuney. I just think Joe Thuney is going to be huge. Let's see. Got time for a few more here. A. Dominguez, thoughts on drafting Fortune Jr. on day 3. Fortune Jr. Got to be honest. I think you're trolling me here. Jimmy Fortune Jr.? I don't know who you're talking about. I feel like I'm getting punked. Fortune Jr. Someone in the chat help me out. I feel like maybe there was a misspelling there. Someone in the chat saying Deonte Thornton. Is that who you're talking about? Sorry, A. Dominguez. Dylan P., who do you think is going to be the Jack Sanborn replacement? Love that guy. Hope he comes back. I don't know. I don't think he's on the roster. That's the best way I can answer it. I don't think Eamon Ogbongbemiga is that. I think he's a special teamer who, in a pinch, can play some linebacker. But Jack Sanborn was, a fringe starter, right? He's your third linebacker in base packages. He was in there. Eamon O, in a pinch, I think, can do that. But I think he's more of a fourth linebacker who could play special teams. So, yeah, that would be my answer. People in the chat are saying they're talking about Deonte Thornton. Listen, 6'5", over 200 pounds, 4.3 flat in the 40. That gets my attention. Also, those Tennessee receivers typically have clear limitations. Don't run the full route tree. Kind of just run like goes, slants, and screens. But hey, if it's like the 5th round, that size-speed combination, if he could play some special teams maybe, listen, Go run 10 go routes a game. Sign me up, baby. Jake Cameron, who's top options on day 2, Harrison? Well, it depends what you do in the first round, right? If you take Ashton Jeanty, I think you're looking at trenches guys like the Ohio State edge rushers. There's a guy like T.J. Sanders, Walter Nolan. Are they sitting there? I'd be surprised if Nolan fell. Princely Uman Landon Jackson, a lot of Derek Harmon. There's a Josh Connerly. Could that be your left tackle competition at 39? Ariante Ursary. Do you go with Xavier Watts? If you go running backs, do you go Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson? Do you take one of the tight ends? I mean, it depends what you do in the first round, but I love day 2 of this draft. I think it's the best part of this draft this year is the value you can get on day 2. I think in general it's an average draft, but I think you can get an equal caliber player at 25 that you can at 60 potentially. So that's exciting because the Bears have 39, 41, and 72. So they can find some value there. Appreciate all the questions from you guys at HGramNFL, both on Twitter and on Instagram. If we didn't get your question answered, hit me up over there. We will answer it. Y'all have been peppering me with DMs, so I've been trying to keep up, but I will continue to do that at HGramNFL on both platforms, Twitter, IG. Let's lock it in, baby.